Welcome everybody to Sports Fluent the Coach and AK. As always, I'm here with the king of organic tequila, Hue Jackson, Grand Leanda. If you haven't checked it out, you should. And Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
And we got a special guest this week from Chilltown Hoops, Jermaine the OG, soon to be half of Fluent and Chill. We're going to be bringing you the best NBA content that the internet has to offer. But this week we're talking football. But wait, we're going to kick it off with a little bit of basketball first because this wasn't on the agenda, but Coach and I always try to talk a little NBA. Jermaine, I know everybody goes to you. You're the NBA analyst now that everyone goes to for advice. So with the 4 teams we have left, who's in the final and who are you picking as a winner?
Well, it's obvious. And first I want to say thanks for having me. That's number one.
Oh.
Thanks for having me. This is great what you're doing here. Your best ability is your availability, man. If I can't count on you to be here, then I can't count on you. No matter what you give me when you're here. If I can't count on you to be here, it doesn't matter. So with that being said, the team that's been able to hold up the most this playoff so far has been Atlanta. Even though Chris Paul was able to come out and battle through the injuries that he's battled, at any point he could go down. And that really scares me with him in particular, because he has a history of that. What happened with Trae Young is minor. And I know this is crazy for me to say this because I'm pretty sure, Anthony, if I told you in October, I got $200, I'm putting it on Atlanta to win the NBA championship, you would have looked at me like I was crazy.
I've taken that.
So absolutely. You are. Absolutely. I got $200 and I'm putting it on Atlanta to win the NBA championship. Coach, you taking my $200 and you doubling it.
Woo.
I'm sure of it. I'm sure of that. So in terms of health, Atlanta has been able to hold it together. Even though Trae Young has something minor going on, they've been able to hold it together the most. And in my assessment, it looks like these guys are going to be the favorites coming out of the East right now. And in terms of the West, I just can't bet on Chris Paul, man, because I'm not sure if he's going to hold up. However, we have ourselves a situation in this Suns Clippers series, because I think it's going back to Phoenix for Game 7. I think we're going back to Phoenix. I think we're going back to Phoenix for Game 7. Now, all the pressure is still on the Clippers because every game that they play in from here on out is an elimination game. And Phoenix has 2 games to win 1. But we all know anything can happen in a Game 7, just like anything can happen, Coach, in the divisional round. Anything can happen in the NFC Championship game or in the AFC wild card game. So I can't bet on Phoenix, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers won and they ended up in the NBA Finals. So,
all right. So our OG NBA resident analyst has the Clippers, I think, and them losing to the Hawks, right?
In the NBA Finals.
Coach?
The OG has spoken. He has put it out there. He has said the Hawks and the Clippers, and I know that's what the world want to see. For NBA TV ratings, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But what I truly believe is that these boys from Phoenix are going to find a way to get it done. They got this guy named Booker. They got this guy named DeAndre Ayton. They got all these other players around. Now, he mentioned Chris Paul, who does look like he's slowing down. There's no question about it. He does scare you. He got that glass body. It will break if he gets hit a little bit too much. But that being said, he's an old wily vet. He's going to show out, and he knows he's got to get it done today. He got to get it done tonight in order for them to have a chance. If it goes Game 7, the OG's right. Then all of a sudden the Clippers got a chance to get it done. Now in the other series, no Giannis, no Milwaukee. It's just that simple. Atlanta is going to be, they're going to walk right to the NBA Finals where Trae Young is going to shock the world.
Trae Young is going to shock the world.
Absolutely.
So we got 2 on the Hawks. So you know me, I always go with the contrarian pick just to be that guy. So when the playoffs started, so Jermaine, you don't know this. I said to Coach, and Coach agreed, I don't trust Phoenix. Now, granted, we're Laker guys, so we wanted Phoenix to lose, but because we didn't trust Chris Paul. Chris Paul always seemed to get hurt when his team needed him the most. And then he did it again, but he's been able to come back. And the thing that has impressed me about Phoenix, right, when you look at the Clippers, obviously they're down Kawhi. Trae, I know it's a minor injury, but that's their best player is hurting. Obviously, Giannis going down for the Bucks. So Phoenix is actually the healthiest team out of the 4. And even when Chris Paul in games 3 and 4 shot like 20-something%, he found ways, and that's what you do when you're a wily veteran. He found ways to get the other guys going, to get involved, right? When they were intentionally fouling, guess who had the ball in his hand? It was Paul. Guess who was making those free throws? It was Paul. So I'm going to go, I like the matchup. I said when we got to this 4, I actually like the matchup of the Suns and Hawks in terms of for excitement value. It might not be what everybody else wants to see, but I like to see Trae and Booker. And for those that know, I've been looking for a new favorite player, right? Just a young guy that could follow for the next 10, 15 years. So these 2 are on the list, Trae and Booker.
Looks like you might have found him.
So I'm going Suns. I'm going Suns and Hawks, but I'm going with the Suns to get their, to bring the title to the Valley of the Sun. I've lived in a lot of cities, but that was one of my favorites. So we're gonna bring one home for Phoenix. So I'm gonna go Phoenix. So we'll see in a couple of weeks which one of us was right. We're gonna play back the tape. So that's good for basketball. So we got that out of the way. As I mentioned, Fluent and Chill, we're going to be coming to you 2 or 3 times a week. We're bringing a lot more basketball stuff, in-depth, past, present, future basketball. It's all coming. But we're going to get into football. And every week, we've been doing a preview of a division. It's our last one. OG, you're on our last final 8, and this is a good one. It's the AFC East. We're going to start with the division winners. My neighbors to just the south, with the Buffalo Bills. Huge signing of my former quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, so I know that's huge. But all jokes aside, the Bills look good. They're the defending champs of that division. Josh Allen, in all seriousness, right, looks good at quarterback. Diggs, they got a good wide receiver. It's a solid team. Coach, are they set up to repeat?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, they're going to be a Super Bowl contender this year. I think Josh Allen takes the next jump. Stephon Diggs, I mean, what a year he had. Defensively, they're as good as anybody. The question was, would the running game start to show itself? The games where things just are not going well sometimes, can they turn around and hand the ball to somebody? I think they have a very comfortable running back in the backfield now. So I feel that Buffalo is really poised in that division to start winning that division and getting things going. But it's always difficult for me to count out the old head and Bill Belichick.
We're gonna get to them. Oh yeah.
But I'm telling you, I think they're poised to get it done. They're the team, in my opinion, that everybody needs to knock off because I think they're trending in the right direction.
Do you think that Josh Allen, so there's the one knock against him is some decisions he makes in some of those playoff games with some of his throws. And the other one question that I have for you guys is when the bullseye is now on their back, right? Now they're the team to beat. Do you think they have the ability to step up and take that pressure?
Well, first and foremost, Josh Allen has improved every year.
100%.
And now, not only has he improved every year, he gets an elite wideout and Diggs, which enhances him even more. So not only, like Coach just mentioned, with them being the favorites in the AFC East, they're right there with the Kansas City Chiefs. They're absolutely a Super Bowl contender. That defense, I watched them, and I'm an NFC West guy, as you know. I watched that defense completely stifle. I mean, they definitely dealt with Seattle as well as they could deal with any defense. I mean, deal with any offense. So I really like what Buffalo was doing in the AFC East. And if I had to pick one team, I'd definitely go with the Buffalo Bills.
All right. Well, let's hope the Bills Mafia is listening because they like those answers. So the team that's obviously going to push them the hardest, right? I think everybody agrees, is going to be the New England Patriots. Right now, early expectations is that Cam might be the starter, but it might be Mac Jones. Coach, I know that, you and I are big, we both like Cam. Obviously, Belichick's going to, they've put in money, right? So this is unusual for the Patriots. They opened up the checkbooks, as it were, and signed some good players. Do you think they've done enough and to compete with the Bills and maybe dethrone them as the division champs?
Anthony, everything's going to center around the quarterback decision. I think we all know that. But that being said, they put some real pieces on their football team. And Coach Belichick is not about that losing. I mean, he might get embarrassed every now and then. Maybe things didn't go well this past year. But he's not about walking out of here, getting his butt kicked up over his shoulders. So
Coach Belichick.
He got something to prove. They got some very talented players on their team. And to me, where they really grew up was defensively. I mean, that's his strength. And I think he wants to go back and reclaim, not that they were the best defense in football, but they were always statistically one of the better covering teams, better in situational football.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to reclaim that. And I think he's going to make a huge difference this year. And I think Cam's going to start the season. And if it doesn't go well, they're going to play a young guy.
Yeah, the Patriots, listen, as much credit, and deservedly so, that Brady got for those years and Belichick got for those years, for those of us that pay attention, that defense was always very opportunistic. And we know, right? We know that was the reason, right, that Brady was able to do all the things he did, was because he knew he trusted that defense. So, OG, are the same feelings that they're going to come back? And if you had to pick a starter, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You're going to be Belichick for a minute. Are you starting the young rookie, or are you rolling with Cam now that he has a full off season to prepare?
Well, the one constant that Coach mentioned that most people don't talk about is your quarterback play is huge. Your quarterback play is tremendous. And if you remember last season, before Cam got knocked out with COVID, I mean, he was doing really well. Yep. And that absolutely turned their season around when he had to sit. And Belichick is synonymous with Brady for great quarterback play, even though they've had really solid defenses. But because their quarterback play has been so good over the years, whatever they lacked on defense, their quarterback play was able to make up for it. So with that being said, this season is gonna be posted on what Cam does. Now, Cam's got a year under his belt under that system. Because remember, Coach, we're talking about a guy who coming into a new system in New England. Yes. He doesn't know how they run things. Now he's got a year under his belt. I've never been a huge fan of bringing in quarterbacks who aren't ready. I mean, a lot of people don't talk about it. Steve Young sat behind Joe Montana for 5 years. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre for almost 4 seasons. I don't have one problem with this kid sitting behind Cam Newton and holding a clipboard for a year, maybe even 2. Just to learn how to be a pro and learn the pro game. I have no problem with that. So in terms of playing this kid early, I don't think it's out of the question, but I think that's Cam's job to lose.
Yeah, and I think the one thing we know, right, we've heard ex-players talk about the terminology and the complexity of that playbook. So it might make sense for him to sit for, if you even think, even Brady, right, he only came in due to injury. Drew Bledsoe, right? He was sitting behind Drew Bledsoe there learning. Another great quarterback to learn from. Patrick Mahomes also sat behind Alex Smith for a season and learned. So there's nothing wrong with getting your quarterback a little seasoning. I'm a big fan of seasoning. So it's a good thing to get them that. We're going to talk about that when we go for dinner, Coach. I love my. But so the next team on the hit list, and I'm going to try to say this here, but the Miami Dolphins, listen, I think we all agree that it's New England and Buffalo at the top of that division. Miami's obviously going to try and do some things. How do you feel about Tua Tagovailoa? I think I finally said it right for the first time ever. How do you feel about Tua and the Dolphins this season?
They're going to have to show me. Obviously, I feel good about the coach. I feel good about the environment he's created. He's changed quite a few coordinators on offense over the years. That tells me something, having been a coach, in the league. You have this young quarterback who everybody thought was the next coming of a superstar, and didn't go that way. And then you hear some of the rumblings out of Miami that he didn't work hard, didn't understand defenses. There was a lot of talk. Where there's smoke, there's smoke. So there's something to this. And I think we're masking it by the changing of coordinators and trying to find the fire and find the right mix for this quarterback. I think if Deshaun Watson wasn't in the situation he's in, we might not even be having this conversation, right. but so it's going to be interesting. I think their future is going to be about what Tua does.
Yeah. Because there was a lot of talk, right, of Tua to the Texans for Watson's before this stuff came out. Yeah,
I think they're going to be really good on defense. That's Coach Flores' forte. I just think on offense, they got to either let this guy become who he can become, or they got to move on, one or the other.
So is it Tua? Is it the defense? OG, what's going to make or break this team?
Well, it goes back to what we just got finished talking about with quarterback play. Tua made it clear. He had said it earlier this year that he was having trouble with the playbook and understanding it. And I can't reiterate this enough, how important vets are. And when I come into the game as a pro, I'm not a pro, coach. I got pro potential.
Yes.
And it's your job to teach me the pro game. That's why I can't put I can't put a price tag on how important it is for a guy to learn from another guy. So but it was such immense pressure on Miami because they had been so bad for Tua to play right now. So it was clear that he wasn't ready. It was obvious that he wasn't ready, but he was getting by because that defense was so good, man, with Baker and Ogba. That interior defense was incredible, what they were doing.
Yes.
But eventually, my quarterback has to play, and he has to produce, because I can only hide him for so long.
Right.
So, like you just said, Coach, we got this season coming up. We have to see improvement. If I don't see improvement, I got to start looking in another direction. I have to.
So, Coach, it's a follow-up question to that, because we mentioned the changing of coordinators, and you and I have talked about, at length, how having that consistency, whether it's a QB coach or an offensive coordinator, is so critical to the development of a young quarterback. I would think most, if not all, organizations, head coaches know that. What's the thought process of changing them when you know that consistency is so important? Is it just like you said, to mask some of the quarterback's inefficiencies, or just try to find someone that clicks with them because these first few didn't?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, you hired a guy to do a job, and maybe this guy is feeling like the quarterback is not living up to his potential. I mean, if you go back and follow their situation, Ryan Fitzpatrick was a starter. Chan Gailey had Ryan Fitzpatrick in Buffalo. They were winning. Ryan Fitzpatrick was doing good things, and all of a sudden, let's take Ryan Fitzpatrick out. This is what OG's talking about. Here's a veteran player who's going to teach this young guy how to play. Everybody's saying not play the young guy. The young guy goes in, things are not going well. And I think the coordinator struggled with having a young guy because he knew he wasn't putting forth the effort that it took on and off the field to be the type of player he needed to be. And so he wrote his ticket out of there. So you bring in this new guy, and if at some point in time, there's going to be a meeting in the road at some point in time with this quarterback and his new coordinator, because there's going to be a time something this coordinator needs from this quarterback. He needs to play like a veteran at some point in time. And if he can't, they won't win. And then they start looking at the coordinator again. So if I'm a coordinator at the Dolphins, I'm concerned because I could be the next one out. Just that simple.
Sure.
Well, speaking of tough times for young quarterbacks, the report is, it's not validated, I'm not saying it's true, but that Zach Wilson threw 12 interceptions at practice today. That's a big number. That's a big number. Again, I'm hoping that that's a false report. Yeah. It just came through 12.
Not You mean 1 plus 2?
No, I do not.
You heard that right,
I mean like a one
You heard
next
that
to
right.
it, like in front of
Absolutely,
it.
Coach. You heard that right. The reason
Hey.
why he said what, Anthony, is because he wanted to he heard you right the first
Oh, I
time.
know
He wanted to make sure he heard that right.
Oh,
That's why he said
actually I don't wear glasses, but when I read it, I have to put the pair on. Just again, it's unconfirmed. I wasn't there. That's the rumor was that he threw 12 today. I wouldn't let that come out if I'm the Jets, but. So let's assume, let's say it's not 12. Let's say it's 6. How did you feel with that pick? And the Jets, like the Jets have holes everywhere, right? Like I looked at their roster, coach, and I do my research. I look at rosters. I look at does this team look scary on paper? This team does. I feel like this team does not look scary on paper. I was going to say something mean, but I won't. This team does not look scary on paper. Do the Jets have any chance? And then kind of part B of that is, what do you think? Take the 12 interceptions away. What are your thoughts on Zach Wilson? Number 2 pick. It's a big expectations, right?
People made him the number 2 pick. I mean, he flipped the ball and in the workout, and people thought it was the greatest thing since applesauce. There was no rushers. There was nobody bearing down his throat. He just flipped the ball. And people anointed him. I think he has talent. He can run. I've never seen a quarterback have a 12 interception day ever. Ever. So
I hope I can get confirmation on that, and I will correct if I'm wrong. Yeah. But
and I've never seen that. So either it tells me that he just had a day, and the defense was sky high and knew exactly what was going on, and this is the pressure they wanted to put him on. It could be a number of things, but it would be concerning to me because I'd be concerned, why couldn't we get him back on schedule? I mean, you can hear 1 or 2, 3 interceptions, and it may have been all in different periods of practice, but that's not a good look for the team. That's the guy that they're counting on to save them. That's the guy you drafted and anointing him basically as your starter in the future of the organization. So
they traded away a very young, who we believe to be talented quarterback, right? So Zach's stepping in.
You got to put him in position to be successful. And then you just said it, when you look at their team, maybe they're not equipped to have a big say in how this division is going to go. I think they've improved, but I still think they're at the bottom of their division right now.
OG, when you know you're on a team, and I don't know if you've been on a team that is going to be bad. You have a new voice, right? It's a new coach. He hasn't, not say he hasn't proven himself, but he hasn't been a successful NFL coach in the past. Do you approach your day differently? And I'll give you a basketball example. So I was watching an old clip. It's a few years old, of Kenny the Jet Smith, and he was talking about his days in Houston. And he said, I played against Derek Harper. I think he was on Dallas at the time. And Derek Harper was such a nice guy. Hey, give me a slap on the butt. Tell me, hey, have a good game. And then he went to the Knicks. And all of a sudden he became mean. He'd walk by me and be like, yo, and he'd elbow me in the chest. Right? He goes, there was a whole different mentality. And because when he was in Dallas, they weren't winning anything. They weren't competing for titles. So he's just laid back. He wasn't as hard as he was when he was on the Knicks. Do you think we're going to see some of that with the Jets?
Well, at the end of the day, and Coach can attest to this, being a professional football coach, hence the term professional. So I'm a pro, and I got to show up to work every day, and I got to do my job. Even if my nose may be turned up to the new regime, I'm still a pro. And I got to show up to work, and I got to do my job every day. Now, Zach Wilson in workouts, in a T-shirt and shorts, looked really good, throwing the ball 55, 60 yards, 70 yards. Now, that's a lot different when he's getting blitzed by actual NFL cornerbacks. And he has to read that defense. He's getting blitzed by actual defensive linemen. So with that being said, I'm looking at what have the Jets done to improve from last year? And that doesn't mean that they have to make the playoffs this year, but what have they done to improve from last year's? Because you just got Sam Darnold 3 years ago, who you brought in an offensive coordinator who, in my opinion, screwed him up. I think he screwed him up. So now what you do is you bring in another offensive coordinator, and you bring in another quarterback. Now, how do I know with what you guys are doing here, you're not going to screw this up again? And I haven't seen much to suggest that the Jets have done anything to improve immensely. I'm not, like I said, they don't have to make the playoffs, but remember, they were 1-15 last year. So what are we looking at? 4 wins this year? Are we looking at 5 wins? Exactly.
You know that $200 from that Atlanta bet. I'll put that it's
right.
under. That I'll take the under.
So the over under on 5. You take an under.
I'll take an under on 4. On 4.
So they're going to be bad again.
They're going to be
because
bad.
They haven't done anything to improve this team. I wasn't a big fan of Sam Darnold coming out of college. However, when I saw him with the Jets, I'm watching this kid and I'm thinking to myself, I think you got your quarterback of the future. Now build something around him. But they didn't. Instead, they went the other way. And the best thing that happened to him was him getting out of it. No question in my mind.
Oh, yeah. I think there's some guys that we're going to see, right? Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford. We're going to see some of these guys who we all thought were in bad situations, just what kind of quarterbacks I think they really are this year. So I'm happy to see that. And as you guys were talking about, it's easy to do it when I immediately had this flash of like, yeah, I look really good when I'm shadow boxing. But then I always have that quote of Mike Tyson. Everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face. That's immediately.
Anthony,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Shadow boxing, Anthony. It looks really good when you shadow boxing, man. When somebody actually is throwing a jab at you and you got to move and you got to get out the way, it's not as easy as it looks on TV. No, it's not.
It's everything's a little bit faster too. All right.
A little bit.
So am I safe to say Bills, Patriots nipping at their heels, a little ways back, Miami, and then way in the back, we got the Jets, right?
I'm taking Miami. I'm going to go with Miami over New England.
Really? Okay.
I am. I'm taking Miami. I think Miami makes the playoffs this year.
That's because you live in Florida.
No, that's not.
He's being safe. That's why I'm picking the Bills. I'm too close. There's like an hour drive, so I gotta be careful. All right, so we got Coach. Are you Miami or New England number 2, or something completely different? You got New England number 2. Okay.
It's gonna be a tough one, and there's no question. OG's right. The Dolphins have had the Patriots number. For whatever reason, Coach Flores has done a sensational job when they play the Patriots. But I'm telling you, young boy Bill is coming back this week. He ain't going for that. Because he needs to go reclaim his throne. And Bill Belichick will be heard from this year.
Absolutely.
You don't lose your quarterback that everyone says, is it the quarterback or the coach? And he goes down and wins a ring his first season without you, and you don't come back angry. So that's how I'm excited to see the Patriots, because I know he's going to pull out all the stops this season.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of his quarterback, we have 2 stories about him. We're going to start with this one. I'm going to put it out there and say it's safe to assume we all agree. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tom Brady, would you put as the GOAT, the number 1 quarterback of all time? Would I get any argument there?
No.
OG, any argument with Tom Brady at 1? I might get an argument at 1.
I believe 49 are red, so we have to. What's the criteria for greatest of all time?
Well,
just Super Bowl.
Yes, Super Bowl. Give me the chips. As my neighbor says, Drake, right? Give me the chips and the dips. That's all I know. All right, so here's what I would do. I would say, if Brady, who do you have Montana? Who do you have as number 2? Is it Manning? Is it Montana?
It's Montana and Brady.
It's Montana. Okay, so that's where I was going to go. So most people will say Montana, Brady, right? I get very few arguments, and I get this a lot, Coach. And this is why I'm bringing it up. I've never brought up one of these top lists before, but I mean, I've been flooded with like, who do you and Coach think are the? All right, you guys are asking, so we're going to give it to you. So if we agree that Montana and Brady are 1 and 2, you can flip them however you want. Who's number 3? And let me throw some names out there. We got Peyton Manning, who has all the stats, a couple of Super Bowls. One was gifted him by the defense later on. I'm going to throw a real old name at you. We got Otto Graham, who played 10 seasons, went to 10 championship games. Oh, and won a professional basketball title too, right? So all he did was make championship games and won 6 out of those 10. We've got Dan Marino, who never won a ring, was amazing. You got Aaron Rodgers in that conversation. We got John Elway. You can pick anybody you want. Terry Bradshaw has 4 chips since we talk about rings. I know he's not, I wouldn't put him there.
Steve Young.
I was getting to Steve Young. Who's your number 3? Now that you're on the spot, and I think I've probably missed another 20 that could be in that conversation, but.
Coach, can I go, Coach?
Okay, OG's ready. OG's ready. OG's prepared for this one. Go.
Go.
Montana, Brady, Manning, Breeze, Marino.
I completely forgot about Breeze. I completely forgot about Breeze. All right, so you got Manning at 3?
Yes, sir. It's front and I had this argument with a buddy of mine. Just as a pure passer, a guy who can deliver the ball, 3-step drop, 5-step drop, there he is, hit him. He's the best that I've ever seen. Better than Marino, better than Favre, Montana, Dan Fouts, line them all up. Peyton Manning's the best that I've ever seen. As I can appreciate the rhetoric of him being a great regular season guy, and he didn't get it done in the playoffs as much because he didn't. He's got a losing record in the playoffs. That's fair. He absolutely does have.
And let me say this, right? He's got please, anyone correct me if I'm wrong. He's got 2 Super Bowls.
Yes, he does.
One was gifted to him by his defense. We agree on that one, right? Come on, his arm wasn't what it was when he won that. And second one, he beat Rex Grossman. And I'm a Bears fan, as you can see. So I'm telling you, that game in Miami, he beat Rex Grossman.
Not only did he beat Rex Grossman, in the Super Bowl he lost to Breeze, who I can't believe I'm putting him ahead of Breeze, but the Super Bowl he lost to Breeze. The pick 6 that he threw, that was for the game. We don't need no more points after that. Game's over.
Right.
We're done. Okay, we're good. We don't need any more points after that. We straight. So, but in terms of a pure passer, he's the best that I've ever seen. So that's my 5.
So on talent, we're gonna give him it on talent.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Coach. I've never had this conversation with you, so I love this.
Brady. Not even a question.
Yes.
You Super Bowls at the Patriots, you walk over to Tampa Bay, you win the Super Bowl again. None of them have ever done this.
Never. Nobody.
Montana, one of the best. It's not even a question. Steve Young,
Number
another
3.
one. Oh, yes. Steve Young was a physical freak, in my opinion.
Sure. I can give it that.
Manning.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, Terry Bradshaw.
No love for the 40s and 50s. No love for my autogram.
No.
Sid Luckman, perhaps.
I really didn't see Otto back then.
All right, so I like that. So okay. So I think the case OG made a great case for Manning, obviously.
Yes,
Steve Young, I'm interested to know about Steve Young. So I know that Steve Young was phenomenal. He came in behind Montana with massive shoes to fill. I think that moment everyone saw when he won that Super Bowl and got that monkey off his back. When you say he's freak athlete, tell me some of the things you saw in Steve Young that you're just like, wow, that's special.
He ran 4.5. He was a 4.5 sprinter. I mean,
it's incredible, Coach.
You don't see incredible.
That is incredible, Coach.
You don't see that in quarterbacks that look like him.
Yeah.
Not fast. He was left-handed. He was accurate with the ball. He was quick. He was unbelievable in the pocket. He had pocket presence like you wouldn't believe. He had the ability to add to the play because of his athletic ability. And he was pinpoint accurate. That's what he was. Just said it. He replaced and came after one of the greatest. And normally it goes downhill. He took it to another level.
Yeah. And won league MVP multiple times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't leave that out.
You don't know, OG. I've been telling Coach that I run a 4.5 as well, but there's no dot in the middle. It's just 45.
That's fair. Coach, and really quick, guys. Coach, that what you just mentioned, a 4.5 for a quarterback. That is incredible. That's wide out speed.
Yes.
Yeah. Quarterbacks don't run 4.5s.
And listen,
don't.
listen, we get this all the time. Our generation is the athletes today are bigger, stronger, faster. Is there a quarterback running? How many quarterbacks? I know there's some. How many quarterbacks are running a 4.5 today? How many? I know that Mike Vick ran a 4.7 or something at 40 years old, but I don't think he counts. He's a
Mark Jackson is as fast as anybody in an National Football League.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously Russ Wilson, he wasn't fast. He was just strategically good at running with the football. But when you talk about overall speed, you're talking about Michael Vick, you're talking about Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Those guys they're different breeds.
Those are the. But that's what I'm saying is even back then, right? To have a 4 or 5 speed quarterback then.
Right. Randall Cunningham probably wasn't. Probably was 4.6, low 4.6s, but he was just so long, and he's so athletic. It was different, but you didn't see a lot of guys that can run like this.
No, you didn't.
And the last one I want to ask you about, because I think he gets skipped over a lot, and Terry Bradshaw. So tell me, Terry Bradshaw, is it because of the 4? I know winning means stuff, right? So he's got the 4 Super Bowls, but what else was it about Terry Bradshaw? Because people see, here's the problem with some of these retired players going into the booth. And this is, this goes to like Charles Barkley in basketball, Terry Bradshaw. They see this animated character, right, later on in life, and they think that's who they were. But we forget how great they were on the court or on the field. Tell me about Terry Bradshaw and what you saw in him.
You just said it, and that's who you see now is who he was on the field. That's who he was. I mean, he played the game with his heart. He was an unquestioned leader. He brought it every week. He laid it on the field, and he led them to victories. I mean, he was a winner, and it's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
Do you hold?
Absolutely.
Do you hold the 1 Super Bowl appearance and loss against Dan Marino?
I don't. No more. I mean, we can talk about Troy Aikman and all those guys. You know what I mean? I don't. I think Dan was one of the best pure passers in the game. But at the same time, he didn't win a lot. There's a lot of great players. I mean, we keep talking about it all the time, me and you, I think. I mean, Batman's got to have their Robin, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's basketball, football. I mean, if you look and see a great quarterback, he's probably got some great receivers. I mean, we talk about Aaron Rodgers now like he's the greatest, and he is, but Devontae Adams is no slob.
Right.
So people can't forget. I mean, it's how you surround these players that we're talking about with talent. The thing that I'm so, when I think of Tom Brady, other than, one receiver, he made all these other guys. They should be paying him.
Yeah. We talk about because Deion Sanders, right? Deion Sanders had brought up, when you see Montana, there's Rice. You see Troy Aikman, there's Michael Irvin. There's these combinations, and other than that year with Moss, Brady really hasn't had a.
He made all these other guys. Yeah. I mean, these guys' careers extended because of him, and that's why I think he's special. I think when you raise the level of play from that position, man, that's royalty to me.
So
that's your job.
Yeah, but not everybody knows how to do their job, though, right?
Everybody can do that. You just said it.
So Tom Brady came up with something else recently, and I'm not, I don't cuss, so I'll just say I'll paraphrase. He couldn't believe that team was sticking with that MFer at quarterback, and there's been a lot of speculation, right? Because before he went to Tampa, there's obviously some interest. There's some teams that made some calls, and then some teams that were interested dropped out of the running. And his remark about he couldn't believe they were sticking with that person, and they've narrowed it down to 3. They believe it's the Rams sticking with Goff, the Bears sticking with, I don't know, whoever was throwing the ball, and the 49ers sticking with his old backup in Jimmy G. I don't know that you have any insight to this, but I'm curious, which one do you think is the most realistic as an option that showed interest and then dropped out?
Also heard David Carr too.
Yeah, we did hear the Raiders one too. I think there was something about he liked to get they eliminated the Raiders because they said, "Oh, we think he likes Derek Carr." I don't know what that means, but unless you think that's the one, then I'll give it to you. I'll give it that one to you. But Coaches take his long time on this one.
Yeah, I don't think it's the Rams.
Okay.
I don't either.
I don't think it's the 49ers either. I think he would have loved to play at home. I don't think it was the 49ers. I think it was that other team.
You think it's that other team with the C on their helmet? Yeah, because if he had any interest in Chicago, I would have fired every offensive coordinator, every quarterback coach, every ball boy, and I would have signed him to whatever he wanted. Let's be honest. I haven't had a quarterback ever. We've had a team since 1902, and I've never had a quarterback. We do have one now. And we're gonna I'm gonna ask you a question about him in a minute too. So you think it's the Bears? OG, you a coach, you think it's the Bears?
Who else could it be? Because Jimmy G was his backup in New England. I think Jimmy G, when he was in New England as a backup, I think he was undefeated.
Yes,
as the backup, and so he couldn't have been slighting him. So it wasn't Goff with the Rams because they were right at the door. Even though he beat him, they were right on the doorstep. It wasn't like Goff was terrible. So it had to have been whoever was thrown.
Yeah, Goff did lead them to a Super Bowl, right? So he can't.
Yeah, they did go to the Super Bowl.
That bad, yeah. So here's my thinking. So I'll go a little political on this one. My first train of thought was it's Tom Brady, and he's got a weird sense of humor if you listen to some of the stuff he says and posts. So I'm like, okay, maybe it is Jimmy G, maybe it's the 49ers, and he's making a joke, right? Maybe he meant it a little tongue in cheek. However, not that you could tell from the helmet and all the hats in my background, but that's such a Chicago Bears thing to do. That is such a Chicago Bears thing to do, to have a quarterback say, hey, I'm the best quarterback ever. I want to come play for you. And they're like, nah, we're good. We're good. We think Trubisky and Foles, they got this. So unfortunately, I'm with you guys. Unfortunately, I think that's who it was, which just even kills me even more. But let's hope it worked out in the end. So from that, and this is why I wanted to bring up Justin Fields. So I sent you guys, I don't know if hopefully you had time to read it. I sent you an article that I came across. It's been back in the news again. And it's regard to Black cognitive function. So I'm going to give you one example here. So do you guys remember running back for the Packers named Davenport? I think it's Najee Davenport.
Yes.
So Najee Davenport had a, retired players coach. You probably know this better than we do, but retired players have a fund. There was the concussion lawsuit that the NFL players won, and they were giving out settlements. Najee Davenport was diagnosed from a doctor, a legitimate doctor, as having dementia, and caused by, obviously, hits to the head as a running back. That's something that, CTE is going to be something they need to worry about, but with dementia. The NFL appealed and said that you need to rate his cognitive function on a bell curve because of the adjustment for race. And they won. And he was denied his claim. They denied his claim, and he got no money. And so I started to dig deeper when I saw that article. And it's not just in the NFL, but we're going to talk about it in the NFL wise. But in the NFL, they say that white player is here and the black player starts here. So if we start to look at their cognitive function, the drop has to be below this point before a black player or Hispanic versus a white player. And it's been going on for decades this way. So much so when outside of football, when they've put things together outside of football, they actually have scales for lung disease, and it's a different scale. They have, for children, urinary tract infections. The scale, they put that the white child is at greater risk and they get more medical help than a black or Latino child, because that's the way they've created this race scale. When you saw that, these race norms, what was the first thing, Coach, when I sent that to you that came across your mind? I know that we've had a lot of discussion, so I don't think there's going to be any surprise there. But is it weird that it's taken so long and it's not even a big story yet? It's out there and it's not making national news, and it should.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, and nobody's surprised by it. This has been going on for forever. I mean, you just go back and look at the history of the league. I still keep taking people back. Blacks were not seen as a part of the league when it first started. we had to get an injunction in order to have a minority player play. Okay. Or else he wasn't going to be playing. So that tells you everything you need to know right there. Go look and see when there was the first National Football League minority coach. How many years had the league been going before that happened? So we were never meant to be a part of the league. And it shows in everything. Ownership, GMs, quarterbacks, players, the whole 9 yards. This is nothing new. I'm just surprised, like you said, that people just finally figuring it out.
Sure.
OG,
Absolutely.
did you have a time to look at it? What's your initial thought? Because I have 2 follow-up questions coming, but your initial thoughts on that.
I think that the one thing that sticks out to me more than anything is I remember a quarterback, and this hits home with me because I've had to deal with this, but I remember a quarterback that the New Orleans Saints had, Aaron Brooks.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Aaron Brooks, when he was coming out of college, the knock on him was he wasn't smart enough to play the quarterback position because he had a bit of a speech impediment. Now, mind you, Aaron Brooks went to University of Virginia, one of the best academic schools in the country, and he graduated. But the knock on him was because he had a bit of a speech impediment, because he would get in front of the camera and he would be a little slow with his delivery, that maybe he isn't as smart to play quarterback. And it just resonated with me that we are always going to be looked at as less than.
Yes. So
it became almost the norm where I wasn't shocked to see it, even though that's a bad thing. Because I should be, but I wasn't shocked to see it. I wasn't thinking, I can't believe this is still going on, but this has been going on for decades. So it's not anything new.
And the reason you had mentioned we have a good quarterback now in Chicago. So the rumor is that he scored the highest. Is it the Wonderlic test? Is that still the one that they're doing for their right? He had the highest score ever recorded, right? As a black quarterback. And again, the fact that we're having this conversation, but every time you have this discussion, you look back. So again, I went back and I started looking at the scouting reports of these players coming out of college, and almost 100%, maybe I'll say 99%, the black quarterbacks were athletic, quick on his feet, right? Good movement, could be a wide receiver, white quarterback, highly intelligent, high football IQ, right? And they would describe if they were fast differently. So that's why when you brought up Steve Young and his speed, it was like, oh, quick on, good pocket presence. Oh, he's fast, and then the black quarterback is, fast and, fast on his feet. Like even the descriptions of words that they used. One, Coach, I know how we've had these discussions, but do you think this being brought to light, do you think that Justin Fields scoring, has it even started to, the pendulum started to move a little bit to say, hey, there's, because there's been a lot of good quarterbacks that they've tried. I think back to like Warren Moon, right? Who had to go, if I'm correct, Warren Moon had to go play into the CFL because they wanted to change his position. He's like, no, I'm a quarterback. Yeah, he turned out to be a pretty good quarterback, right? And we've seen that. Now, Charlie Ward, I get it. His was more about his height, right? But Charlie Ward had to go be a point guard for the Knicks because they wouldn't let him be a quarterback. Has the pendulum started with the Patrick Mahomes, with the Lamar Jacksons, with, Randall Cunninghams, Warren Moon's, all? Doug Williams, I just saw a piece. I think it was the NFL Network did, the life of, and it was Doug Williams winning the Super Bowl. Did any of those guys start to make that pendulum change at all?
I don't see it. I'm just being very honest with you. I hear the talk, but I don't see any substance to anything. I think we talk about things real quickly. People talk about a lot of stuff in public. They say change normally happens in private, but there's been no change.
Sure.
Talk. So I'm not surprised at anything. It's no different than Brian Flores in the Super Bowl against the Rams. He shut them down. They talked about Bill Belichick. The year before, when they were watching the Atlanta Falcons versus the Patriots, they talked about the defense coordinator, who was the head coach at Detroit. Every sentence. That's got to tell you something. It's everywhere. It's not going to change. and we bring it out a little bit for a day or two, and then it just dissipates. It goes away. So I don't see any change.
Well, before I get to OG's opinion on it, I'm going to ask you every single week, and everybody that listens, maybe they're new or maybe they have to hear it 20 times. We're going to talk about it every single week. So we're not going away. OG, your thoughts.
Well, your quarterback, for example, Justin Fields. Can you imagine if he had what Mac Jones had when he had a DUI and that was going on with him? You think he'd be the quarterback? You think he'd be your first round pick? And this is a guy who he basically had no issues in college, none whatsoever. And if he had that track record, now all of a sudden we got to question his character. Now we have to question his family background. And well, maybe he shouldn't be playing quarterback in the NFL. All of these sort of things. Meanwhile, we got a guy in Mac Jones who I think it was recorded he had 2 DUIs. I know he had at least one. So don't quote me on that, but I know he had at least one. And he was a top 15 pick and nobody questioned it. There was nothing asked about who he was whatsoever. Meanwhile, you got guys like Justin Fields who basically had a flawless career in terms of his character in college, and he still had to explain himself. And this has been going on for decades. Warren Sapp drops in the draft because the word on the street is he gets high. It's something that's continuous, and it's going to continue.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you guys are right. It is going to continue, and we're going to continue to talk and make change and try to, enlighten people one person at a time. And I'll leave that as the final word on that topic for this week. And before I let you go, this is the last thing, Coach, I want to talk about. It's coming. The time is short. And I know you're prepping your guys at TSU, but I want to bring up, and I'm going to bring it up every week because it's going to be nationally televised. We got the HBCU Hall of Fame game, TSU against Grambling, correct? Right? That's that one.
Yes, sir.
And then week 2, you got the Heritage Classic against Deion Sanders and Jackson State. How are things coming along? I need my weekly offensive install update. How are things coming along at TSU? And let me say this. Sorry. Let me say what I want to look at the camera and say. Last week I referred to them as TCU. I'm sorry to all those people that messaged me. I'm sorry. TSU. You'd think I'd get it right by now, right? But
no, it's coming. I think Coach George has done an outstanding job. This is the last week of their involvement, and they get a little break. But again, he's creating an unbelievable environment for the players. He's doing things that I think a head coach needs to do, which is change the culture, have an expectation of the players on and off the field, create an environment, as I mentioned a second ago, of them getting better each and every day, chasing perfection as much as they can. It's a talented staff. We've just committed a young quarterback that was at Auburn, Shael Garnett. He's very talented. We have Jeremy Hickbottom, who was at Grambling a year ago, who's also very talented with a host of other young talented passers. So it's going to be an interesting year for us. I'm dying to see them on the grass with the ball in their hand because we've been having towels and basketballs and all that because you can't have any footballs right now. It's against the but at the same time, these guys are eager, they're hungry, and they're wanting to show who they are. So we're going to give them an opportunity to do that.
I'm just going to say a little behind the scenes. I'm not going to give away too much, Coach, but I love hearing Eddie George's enthusiasm, right? When he's talking about players who can spin the ball, and you can hear it in his voice how excited he is. So I was glad to hear that. Not that I'm surprised to hear that from him, but I appreciate the little insight into behind the scenes there.
Coach, I just want to say, Coach, that I want to start by saying you are necessary at that level. And the reason why you're necessary at that level is strictly because you've done it at the highest level. And as a former college basketball player, to see somebody in front of me that looks like me, that can give me the tutelage and point me in the right direction, there is no price tag on that. to help me become a better player and to see and to have the same vision as me, because a lot of these kids are under the impression that they're there to help the coach, when in reality, coaches like you understand that I got dreams too.
Absolutely.
And there's things that I want to do too. That's why I have so much respect for you as a coach at this level, coaching at this university, because you are necessary, coach.
Thank you.
Well, and I've said this a couple of times, and I'll probably say it every week, Coach. I've told you this before. As much as you'll make them better football players, I know you're going to make them better men, and that's the most important part. And as tradition, Jermaine, OG, Fluent and Chill, you get the last question, and it's the hardest one. It's the hardest one we ask every guest every week. The most famous alum at TSU is
Anthony Mason.
Non-athlete. Non-athlete. Anthony Mason's a good answer, actually.
Yes, it is. Good answer.
That is a good answer, though. I loved Anthony Mason.
Oh, man.
As you're thinking about it, I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to tell Coach something. Anthony Mason, we're talking about New York Knicks, Anthony Mason, correct?
That's correct.
So while you're thinking about the most famous alum, I'm going to tell Coach something. The first time I saw Anthony Mason on the Knicks, right? You know, he used to do all those. It inspired me.
Oh,
and I went out to the barbershop and I said, "God, you got to hook me up." It did not last that long.
Stumped. I'm stumped.
You're stumped? All right.
I
Well,
am.
look, the good news is you're in good company, because I mean, no one has gotten it right, and we've had some great guests.
Yeah.
The answer is Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah Winfrey went to Tennessee State. How about that?
Yes.
Yes,
know that.
sir.
I did.
And we're working on making her homecoming queen. So I will always
Absolutely.
say, I'm going to say it every week until it happens. I'm doing my best LeVar Ball. I am going to speak it into existence, because it worked for him. It worked for him. So I'm going to see if I can do it. All right, guys, man, I appreciate it. It's a great week. Thank you so much, Jermaine, for joining us. Coach, as always, I appreciate you. Thank you.
It was great to talk to you, Coach. Thanks
You
again,
too, buddy.
Coach. It was great to talk to you.